What is up? It's Dave, it's Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. Before we get into the review, just to let you know, our merch store is now live. Check out our merch. We've got hats, we've got vests, we've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got mugs, we've got phone cases, we've got the lot. So if you dig what we do, if you like the channel, if you check out our website and would like to support us, check out the link below. All the details, all the goods, check out. Okay, so for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Canadian technical death metal band Cryptopsy. The band's new album, An Insatiable Violence, will be released on June 20th via Season of Mist.
Dave, I don't know about you, but it's like buses. Like sometimes you wait and you wait and you wait for a bus to come along, and then all of a sudden, a couple of Cryptopsy albums come past. Not on my 2025 bingo list for albums to come out at all. So
no, not for me either. I mean, I know they've kind of moved labels a few times in the last, between the last few album cycles. So I kind of figured something might be happening now.
Eventually, you know what I mean?
But not this quickly.
Not this quick. No.
So more than 30 years into their storied career, Montreal death metal innovators Cryptopsy return with their 9th studio album, An Insatiable Violence. Revered in extreme metal circles for such groundbreaking classics as Blasphemy Made Flesh and the 1996 magnum opus None So Vile, Cryptopsy find yet another gear on An Insatiable Violence, which further solidifies the band's place in the upper echelon of death metal. Coming out of the pandemic, the band dedicated themselves to staying on top of their game more than ever before, with the intention of consistently putting out a new record every 2 years.
I don't know if I can take this, Dave.
This started with 2023's acclaimed As Gamora Burns, which, in addition to the effusive praise it received from within the metal scene, the 2023 album achieved a first for Cryptopsy, earning them their first ever Juno Award in 2024 for Metal Hard Music Album of the Year.
And also an album title that can only be pronounced in the official Scottish. So one more time, Dave.
As Gamora Burns.
That's how it should be said, and if you don't say it like that, then your accent is wrong.
Totally wrong. However, An Insatiable Violence came together a little differently from its predecessor. We had to write the majority of An Insatiable Violence while on the Death to All tour, which was something we'd never done before, says vocalist Matt. Flo and Chris really put their hats on. It was a feat. Ever since COVID, our focus is clear. A lot of work gets done faster and we push each other to get it done, says Flo. It seems as though nothing is scarier than real life right now, and An Insatiable Violence is a commentary on today's society, as though filtered through the transgressive, countercultural perspectives of Jai G. Ballard and David Cronenberg.
Nice. Loving everything that's ticking all my sweet spots right now.
It all came to me in a dream in August 2023. Elaborates Matt. I woke up, I took my phone and I wrote down the title of the record. It's about a person that wakes up every day and fixes a machine, tinkers with it, tries to make it a better day all day long, sweating in the sun, and then at night they strap themselves into this machine and the machine tortures them and they love it. They then wake up the next day and fix it again to make it more efficient, to keep harnessing it, and then just keep doing it over and over again. With Cryptopsy's latest career renaissance showing no signs of slowing down, the recent accolades are only the beginning, and Insatiable Violence reaches a new peak in a career loaded with them. The album was recorded, engineered, produced, mixed and mastered by Christian Donaldson at Christian Donaldson's studio, who is obviously in the band as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So, we reviewed As Gamora Burns.
One thing from that PR, they said there's nothing scarier than real life. I would disagree. I would say there's nothing scarier than a focused Cryptopsy dedicated to releasing an album every 2 years. That is fucking terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So,
yes, there is. I mean, that last album was an absolute
flawless
highlight.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It made me a Cryptopsy fan, and I wasn't a Cryptopsy fan before then.
Yeah,
and it landed in a year where we were getting the level of death metal that came out in 2023 was fucking insane, right?
Yeah.
And Cryptopsy came out of nowhere and released an album which almost made every other album sound shit's a strong word, but you can see what I mean. Just inadequate. You know, like if you're in a threesome and the dick that you pull out is just like a good couple inches shorter than the other guy. kind of that way where you're looking at it going, this old thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was like just an instant hit for me, like one of the best death metal albums of that year, one of the best Cryptopsy releases, to be honest. I thought it was fantastic. So I was looking forward to this and hearing what they'd done with this next release. In 2 short years, we're back with a new release.
Pals writing on a bus, apparently.
Yeah.
And just like stacking the odds against the band for doing something awesome. Dave, you are a resident Cryptopsy expert. You have I can't stress how long you've been talking about this band. Like almost the full time me and you have had a friendship, which now is it keeps going. So I'm interested in your opinion as to where An Insatiable Violence lands.
Yeah.
In the pantheon of great Cryptopsy albums, 9 at this stage. So
this one was a little different, to be honest, from As Gomorrah Burns. I found this album wasn't as easy to initially latch onto, so it took me 3 listens, I'd say, for it to fully kind of get in there. And that
the album's only 35 minutes, so let's not make it sound like it was a huge effort at the time.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Hour and a half, and you were done, Dave. Right?
And that wasn't because it's like a poorly written album or anything like that. Like, far from it. This is just a busier album than the previous one.
More switches.
There are well, very small but very little moments to breathe on this album. It's much harder, it's much faster, it's much more extreme than the previous album. And that, for me, it took me a little bit more time to kind of deconstruct it. The kind of the set pieces, I'd say, aren't as obvious on this album. They're a bit more complex and a bit more kind of buried in with this kind of bleak, nasty kind of discordance that's on this album. And this is a gnarly album, holy shit. If you thought
it fits the brief of their description, because
for sure.
You can hear the joy in them playing it, but you can also feel the torture of the guy strapping himself in.
Yeah, there's a darkness to this release. I mean, if you thought As Gomorrah Burns was intense, then you're in for a rude awakening, because this is darker, it's more dissonant, it's even more punishing than that album. For me, though, actually, there was a bit more of a kind of blackened edge to some of this than previously.
Yeah,
and you can hear that coming through straight away on the opening track, as it gets that kind of midway point that the riffs do this kind of switch into this more kind of bleak, kind of darker tone, more malevolent tone, I'd say. But it works really well because it perfectly sets up the solo on the track. And they weave it in so well that it doesn't sound out of place at all. That blackened side or streak also is very apparent on tracks like Dead Eyes Replete.
Oh god, there's a whole section in there that is black metal as fuck.
And the Art of Emptiness as well, there's a big bit of blackness on that as well. But they use it to kind of transition either to something more, I'll say melodic. There's melody of as such on here. Also the way they kind of transition the solos as well. Or if they just want to give it a slight dip before they kind of absolutely pummel you with something more kind of technical and death metal heavy. And parts of this album get seriously heavy. There's stuff here that, when I was listening to this, there was parts of it I was like, this could kind of compete with a Lorna Shore on the heaviness front. And I'm not saying this is a deathcore album per se, but it's not a huge leap away from it.
It's interesting because the deathcore way of doing this is to make it so, I'm going to say it's so soulless and machine-like.
Yes.
Whereas Cryptopsy, when you're getting that thing that they do, which is aided. Right, there's I'm not saying it's aided in the speed. The guy plays that fast, but the sound is aided.
Yeah.
But at no point did they strip it to the point where it just sounds like a machine doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's like the Cryptopsy variant of deathcore.
Yeah, so they make it sound weirdly organic, whilst at the same time you struggle to understand how a man can play that fast. How is this not a machine?
It's still it's still steeped in that technical death metal sound, but it's got the magnitude and the dissonance to it that it kind of shares similarities with deathcore.
I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
And I said earlier, this album doesn't really give you any room to breathe. Like it's very oppressive. The only kind of small kind of part that has air in it is track 6, probably. Our Great Deception, which begins with a cleaner, more melodic guitar, but then builds into another like onslaught of extreme twisty guitar riffs and punishing drums. But I love the way they finished that track in the complete opposite way of how it started, with this like just huge, chuggy, bludgeoning groove to end the track off. Track 7, though, I need to mention track 7 because this was really cool. So track 7 gives us a little Cryptopsy OG fan surprise, I suppose.
Like OG boner.
Yeah. So if you've listened to Cryptopsy for as long as I have, you remember they've been through a lot of vocalists, right? They've been through quite a few different guys, but they had a vocalist way back, like late 90s, a guy called Mike DeSalvo, who appeared on Whisper Supremacy and Then You'll Beg was the other album he was on. The first track on And Then You'll Beg is called And Then It Passes. And what they've done basically with this track 7, Embrace the Nihility, is they've ended it with the same vocal pattern as And Then It Passes, but they've also included Mike DeSalvo as a guest on the track right at the end.
That's cool as fuck.
I thought it was a really clever idea. And like Mike has like a different style to Matt. He's got a much kind of like higher register, and his register is nuts. Like when you hear him come in on that track, you're just like, holy shit. Like that high end scream is just savage. It's really visceral tone. But what's really cool is the two tones together, like they just complement each other really well on the track. I thought it was really cool. So that was nice. That was a nice little kind of Easter egg or a little kind of nugget on there for fans of the band. But just while I'm on the vocals, Matt, his voice somehow sounds, and it's only been 2 years, but his voice sounds better on this release. His tone is even like more guttural, like nastier sounding. He's clearly been working on his voice, even from like As Gomorrah Burns. Maybe all the touring and stuff they're doing, I'm not entirely sure.
I think that's probably it. I think like it just sounds much more warmed up.
Yeah, he sounds really comfortable on this release. And he's managed to bring his voice down into even kind of lower depths on this. It's kind of nuts, but it sounds awesome. However, for me,
it's always going to come back to like this. It is the MVP of it. Like, and it's a shame that we have to do this because the riffing on this is fucking incredible. The vocals are fucking incredible on this one. However, like anyone that's listening to Cryptopsy, there's one thing that you have to talk about. That's like it's the. I want like a Neil deGrasse Tyson or some other physicist to stand there and explain how this is physically possible. This far into the career, it's faster and better.
Like how is he getting older and getting better? Like, I don't understand.
Because it was already top level. Some of the drumming on this, like, and I said this about As Gomorrah Burns, which is the first time I'd really tried to dissect a Cryptopsy album, and like I think our conversation, 60% of it was all about the drumming. On that review, I kind of feel like I could spend 80% on this one just talking. Like, there's some stuff he does here that I physically don't know.
Yeah.
How you do it without like an extra leg, 7 arms, like it is so vicious, and it is machine gun type. It's like it's precision to the point that you would think, oh well, there's someone just went in and like fucked with this completely. But if you go on, and this is the thing, you go on and check out their stuff on YouTube, it's how they did plays.
Flows, it's just like, and there's like the playing is tight. It's ridiculous. He's got gravity blasts on this album and everything. Like he's chucking it all into this release. Incredible stuff. But it's
varied as well and interesting. It's not just here's gravity,
sure.
And it's not the right. Sorry, to be topical here. It's not the fucking Archspire stuff where it Well, that stuff gets, like, to me, is the wanky side of, like, progressive death metal. It gets to the point where I'm like, that cool, right? You can hit loads of things.
Yeah.
Amazing. I can't do that, right?
It's
I
very
can barely
clinical.
hit. Yeah, it's like, clinical to the point where I lose it. I lose the art form.
Yeah.
It doesn't become, like, music to me is a lot
Yeah.
like art. It loses the art form.
Yeah.
On this is fucking Picasso painting, man.
Yeah.
It's like the movements are like brush strokes. It's brush strokes around a kit and back at a speed where he's hit like 17 hits in the time it's taken me to go. It's fucking unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. For such a technical drummer, he's a huge amount of natural feel to his playing. Which is rare with technical death metal. Like, usually it does feel super clinical, but Flo manages to be both kind of clinical and naturally kind of groovy at the same time. It's a really difficult thing to balance, but he's perfected it on this release. It's just like, and when he does hit that the gas on this album, it's a spectacle. Like, when he's just, it's ridiculous. Phenomenal performance from him. He's like 50 years old and
That
could
doesn't even make
like,
sense, man. I'm 43 and at times I struggle to get out of bed. Like if I stand up slightly too quick at a chair, I'm paying for it later on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This cunt's doing this. What?
Yeah. And like, the musicianship across the board on this is great. Christian's an incredible guitarist. Like, really nasty kind of riffs on this album. Shout out to Ollie on bass as well. He puts on an absolute shift. The finger work from him is exceptional, and I love the bass tone that they've captured with this album. Like, it's, they've got that, the clarity of it is fantastic. Even though this album is thick and dissonant, the bass is always there. So, like, hats off to Ollie and to Matt, who's done a killer job of the not Matt, Christian, who's done a killer job of the production.
Production's awesome,
hits like a truck. Yeah, I really enjoyed the delivery of this one. It's not just like a copy and paste of As Gamora Burns. This is definitely darker, more blackened in places, and even more extreme in the playing. Like, I can't praise the musicianship anymore on this release. Yeah. It's unbelievable. The question comes as, is this better than As Gamora Burns? I scored As Gamora Burns a 5 out of 5. It was one of my favourite death metal albums of that year. For me, I feel like As Gamora Burns still has something over this release, even though, like, this could be more musically impressive. I think As Gamora Burns was more memorable for me overall. And I was like, today I was like pained, like, having to make this decision today. I was like, right, I'm going to listen to both albums back to back and, just get a kind of like a feeling from which album I feel is better. And I feel like As Gamora Burns has just more standout moments for me. It was a more, as I said, it was a more instant album, whereas this took me a few listens to kind of tune into what they were putting down and the frequencies of it. There's not much in it, to be honest, like, which my score will reflect. But yeah, another, like, 2 years later, another incredible release from Cryptopsy. They just keep killing it on every album. It's like they just don't put out duds at all, this band. Like, incredible stuff. What do you think? What did you make of this new one?
So, like, it's interesting you said that, because I think back to, we had a similar conversation with Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Under the we're going to call the Rutan age of the band, where they did 2 albums relatively close together, and I think we were both like,
yeah,
there was something darker in that second release that wasn't in that first release.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of skewed not our opinion over all of it, but it had an impact on how we approached it and how we listened to it, and that kind of overall, right, we now need to pit one against the other, which doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you on this one. Like, to me, like I said earlier on, As Gamora Burns was the first real, like, me sitting down with the reviewer's cap, which I don't wear when I listen to albums, but let's pretend I do, on Cryptopsy, who are a band that I know purely because you talk about them, or did when we were in a band all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the videos and the endless, like, discussions on Gravity Blasts, and it was like constant, just like conversation. But Cryptopsy have always been like, they've always been a band that you've really championed as a like, right, you call yourself a death metal fan. That's great. What do you listen to? have you listened to Cryptopsy? It's like the trump card. It's like, yeah, oh, I hear what they're doing there. Yeah, that blast is kind of impressive. Cryptopsy, and they're like, oh shit. So when As Gamora Burns came out, I was fully expecting me to be like in a similar position that I'd been on previous albums of theirs, where I would check in for a couple of songs and check out. Progressive death metal is not my bag. I tend to, we've established, I lean more towards the old school death metal these days, or bands that emulate that kind of old school vibe. Traditional death metal. The more progressive it gets, the more I start to check out. The technicality becomes more of a distraction than the actual music itself. Cryptopsy released an album that seemed to somehow do all that technicality, but at the same time completely lock me in for the runtime. So much so that, once again, trying to remember here, I think I gave it a 4.5. I'm sure you gave As Gamora Burns a 5 because Cryptopsy. So I think I came in a 4.5, and it was because I genuinely was floored by it. Coming to this one, I agree with you. Like almost from the off, just something said like someone has pissed these guys off. Like there is like they played a gig and someone didn't pay them. You know, like there was merch which was stolen. Like just something. Like they watched a video online of someone punching a puppy, and they were like, "Fuck this shit." It just has a darker edge. All the way through this. Like every riff just sounds slightly angrier, slightly dark. The dissonance on some of those kind of those chunky breakdowns before the grooves are just fucking disgusting. Equally, like the drums on this had a velocity that my brain just couldn't quite. There's a part, and it's almost like a disorientating effect. You know, when you see those people wearing like VR glasses that fall because they're like their spatial awareness is all fucked. There's like a point in 2 of these tracks where I'm sure if I time it, the drums are 1 speed all the way through. But to me in my brain, he speeds up, slow down, like, but it's like marginal. So it's like almost like a fucking sound wave. I know he's not doing that, but like my brain just couldn't fathom how quick he was playing. The blackened elements, I'm glad you touched on that. Epic fucking introduction here. I don't know how much of that they've experimented with in the past. Totally works with this concept anyway. On this album, it definitely works, and they don't overuse it. Interesting enough, you actually think of the tracks where they do use it, it's either almost the second or third track with spacing in between, so they're not overusing it. And as you said, they're not used as a core element. They're actually used as an element that sets up something really cool after it. So it is a feature, not a bug of the album. You know, they've leaned into like, we're going to do this, but this is the payoff. Which is a great way to use blackened elements, especially in death metal when you're not constantly bringing in that as an influence. Vocally, this is fucking dank. I love the vocals on this one. I'm glad that you've explained track 7 to me, because I just assumed that was someone else in the band, like moonlighting as a vocalist, delivering some of the most savage fucking high-pitched screams I've ever heard in my entire life. Like the hairs on the back of my neck fucking stood up. Just incredible. And a huge shout out to like the production, songwriting. But I want to talk a little bit about Malicious Needs, the last track, which is a track which is like it's considerable in length compared to anything else. It's probably double the length. Well, it's slightly shorter than double the length of any other song on here. And the false ending, which is fucking great. This is how you get Dave rimmed at I Hate a Fade Out. Like they give you an ending midway through the song, you're like, what? And then it builds into this huge fucking ugly ending, grand as fuck. Like the palaces are decaying, you know, the river's shit. It's just like the visual elements are just absolutely incredible. To think they're this far into their career and they've just decided at this stage in their career that they're going to be a little bit more consistent with releases. And you know what? Take things a little more seriously. It's scary as fuck. It's the most intimidating thing I've ever heard. Because, well, you mentioned bands like Lorna Shore and all the rest. How long have been between their albums? Years. They craft and painfully craft. And Cryptopsy throw out this as if it's just we wrote this on a tour bus. Was fucking, we're in the middle of a tour and all over the US and all the rest, and we just decided to throw this album together. It's insane to think that, which makes you genuinely, or if you're me as someone newly to Cryptopsy, and my score will reflect this, I'm not going in with the score that. In fact, I don't want to spoil things, but my score is exactly the same as the previous album. But I genuinely think, not having to go back, it would not surprise me if we're 2 years from now sitting here talking about Cryptopsy album and I'm like, this is potentially one of the greatest things I've ever heard. Like they just operate on a completely different level from, and it's, the key is the groove, and you mentioned it. The technical stuff is so supremely and exquisitely put together. If the grooves weren't there, if they didn't have the ability to code switch into a groove, I don't think I would like Cryptopsy nearly as much as I do. But when they slip into that, there's a bit of kind of a reprieve, even if the groove is the nastiest thing you're going to hear this year. You're going to go, all right, like everyone settled in. But it's what they have it. They clinically and precisionally placed when that comes in, and it's always exactly the right point. Like when you're listening to it blind as to what's happening, you're like, this song needs that, there it's there. Like it just happens organically where you want it to. It's fucking great. Like, am I a Cryptopsy fan? Maybe. I think at this stage, if you've got 2 albums back to back where I'm like, this is fucking like up there, top tier stuff, I think I can now officially call myself a Cryptopsy fan, and I do promise that one day I will cast the same critical eye over the back catalogue. I'll get it. If only there wasn't 75 albums coming out a week.
True that. Scores for the new Cryptopsy album. I mean, this is devastating. If you love technical death metal, this is a no-brainer. Cryptopsy are still one of the best in the game, and this shows that they aren't done evolving as musicians or songwriters, which is just insane. Not quite as Gomorrah Burns for me. I still think that album is just flawless, but this is very close. So 4.5 out of 5 for me. What are you thinking?
I've already said it, 4.5. Yeah, I like this as much as I liked their previous album, but for completely different reasons. So this is a coin flip. Depending on what side I get a slightly less oppressive version of the band, which is still fucking brutal as fuck. Or I get the other side, which is this. Both have their place. I'm going to call it bucket list band for me. I've never seen... You seen them live?
Nope, never seen them live.
Let's rectify that. Let's get to Scotland, Cryptopsy. Stop fucking around. Let's add that to the list. A new album every 2 years, a Scottish tour every third. Law of averages, we'll get to see them at some point.
Cryptopsy, An Insatiable Violence, out on June 20th on Season of Mist. Check out the links to the pre-order, to the band, to the singles. Have a listen, see what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is a review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.